How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. We just got some really good data that came in. We also got news of a huge increase in dividend and in share buyback from a major company, along with MicroStrategy buying some more Bitcoin, paying back some debt, and more economic data than you can shake a stick at. If you don't mind, hit subscribe. Turn on the bell notification underneath the video so you can see future videos just like this. Also, if you want to trade cryptocurrency, there's a link underneath the video to Margex where you can get started in just a few minutes. You can get set up without KYC, meaning you don't have to put in your personal information, and you don't need a VPN. You can use all different forms of collateral as well, so you can trade Bitcoin with Solana, which is really cool. Now, as you can see here, looks like we are getting closer to the top end of this triangle, right around 60,000. We have been rejected by it several times. Obviously, tomorrow will play a big role in this, how the Fed speaks. Also, if BlackRock is buying Bitcoin here today, and they did buy yesterday for the first time in weeks. So we'll get into that a little bit later in the video. But first of all, I want to say thank you guys, because I talked about Flappy Bird yesterday in my video, two different videos. I live streamed and talked about it, and then also talked about it in its own separate video. Flappy Bird is being brought back into Web3. It's not a sponsor or anything like that. I just know the person that set this up, which is pretty cool. We are now towards the top of the leaderboard. You know, if anyone else wants to play, it is going to be Web3, so you can actually get ton tokens, which is awesome. Or you can connect your ton wallet, Ton Keeper, to this and get free tokens. Also, it's the same Flappy Bird everyone knows and loves. They got it legally and bought it, and now they're bringing it back. So definitely check this out underneath the video if you want. It's free to play. But yeah, if you don't mind, after I think you get that first egg, you can click a squad and, click the My Financial Friend squad. I want bragging rights is basically how it works out. There's also a Caspa airdrop on Margex, but let's get into this. BlackRock buys 273 Bitcoin. BlackRock's first day of inflows in September. They've actually had 1 or 2 days of outflows. First day of inflows. Yesterday I talked about how this week would be an important week for BlackRock because they just haven't had inflows, even while other ETFs had inflows. And I think people are starting to wonder, what the heck's happening? Why aren't they buying more Bitcoin? Are they out of customers? Are they waiting? Do they know something we don't? That kind of thing. But they did a small buy yesterday. There's a small amount of inflows into the Bitcoin ETFs in general. Fidelity had a small day of buys as well, amongst some other ETFs. But kind of a boring day from the Bitcoin ETFs yesterday. UK 6-month just tanked. There's a 50 basis point cut incoming. Keep in mind, this is UK 6-month government bonds. Typically, when the rate goes down, that means a lot of people are buying it. Why would a lot of people buy it? Because they think that they're not going to get this rate much longer, right? So that's why that's why James Van Stratton's saying 50 basis point cut incoming. We know other countries are cutting rates as well. I believe UK is already cut, but obviously everyone's watching the US tomorrow. Now a 66% chance that we see a 50 basis point cut, 0.5%. And I know we talk about this in terms of risk assets, but this does play a huge role in housing. I think a lot of people realize that. A lot of people are watching that. Let's say you were going to buy a $750,000 house. That little bit of change would save you $300 a month. That little bit, that 0.5% rate cut. Okay? So it does make a huge difference for a lot of people that might want to buy in the future. We also got some retail data. Retail sales came in at 0.1% month over month. The expectation was negative 0.2%. Retail sales ex autos was 0.1%. Expectation was 0.2%. Retail sales control group 0.3% versus the expectation of 0.3%. So retail sales just in general were higher than expected, meaning they weren't as bad as people expected. The economy seems to be spending a little bit more than economists project, which is, it's good, right? We don't want a recession. We want people to continue to spend, not like protect themselves necessarily. Of course, you don't want them to overspend either, cause more inflation, or to go into more debt or anything like that. But little candles like this, little 0.1%, I think the market takes as pretty positive. We do have the NASDAQ up about 0.6% in the pre-market right now. MicroStrategy announced a proposed private offering of $700 million of convertible senior notes. Now, what are they going to be doing with this? Well, actually, they're doing something a little bit different. They intend to use the net proceeds from the offering to redeem all $500 million outstanding aggregate principal amount of MicroStrategy's 6.125% secured senior notes due 2028, and to use any balance of the net proceeds to acquire additional Bitcoin. So they are buying some Bitcoin with it, and then just kind of restructuring some debt as well. I think this is still positive. Still buying more Bitcoin. Might be a smaller amount than usual. Some people will just see that they're, getting 700 million more debt and just assume it's all going to Bitcoin. But, it does look like part of it is going to debt. Still bullish though. MicroStrategy continues to buy over and over. This is the last purchase that they had. 18,300 Bitcoin for about 1.11 billion. Seems like they're going to continue doing that. And this is still small on the grand scheme of things compared to some other tech companies. Like, it seems massive because we're still talking about billions and billions of dollars. But look at it compared to a tech giant like Microsoft. They announced a $60 billion share buyback program, and they're boosting their quarterly dividend by about 10.7%. Now, their dividend pays out about $24.7 billion a year now. With this new increased amount, $24.7 billion a year. In addition to $60 billion worth of share repurchases, this is massive. I mean, look at the scale of this, right? You're talking about nearly $100 billion of share purchases and dividends. This is a totally different league than something like MicroStrategy. Obviously, there's some other companies too that have announced dividends recently, like Google. And I think just in general, this is going to be an interesting time a couple of years down the road. These companies are going to be doing, 100 billion, maybe more in purchases, share repurchases, and dividends. You might start seeing some other companies that do, $2, $3, $5 billion worth of Bitcoin purchases each year. Just something to think about, right? This MicroStrategy is the biggest in the Bitcoin pool or in the Bitcoin pond. They're the biggest fish here, but yet they're still so small on a bigger scale. Like on the massive tech scale, they're still a little player. So I think it's really exciting. Right? There are so many companies that are a bigger market cap than MicroStrategy that can get access to maybe more debt, especially if they start doing the MicroStrategy playbook. They can balloon from, instead of what was MicroStrategy, a $1 billion company, instead of going from a $1 billion to a $30 billion, maybe they go from a $5 billion to a $150 billion, right? Something like that, 30x from 5 instead of 1. I don't know. It's really interesting to think about. So let me know your thoughts on that underneath the video. Again, if you want to trade, there's the link to Margex underneath the video. I don't short the market too often because the market generally goes up. But this might be a decent shorting opportunity. If you're looking at this and thinking, well, if I'm bearish, especially over the next couple days, we get closer to this line, maybe you want to short, you put a stop loss right above it. But of course, I typically would rather do the opposite. If we fall down here eventually, then put in a long and then put in a stop loss. And if we break out, if you're watching this and we break out above this line, then maybe you want to put in a long, because maybe we put in a higher high here and move up to, 64, 65,000, somewhere here with a higher low. Could be bullish. Let me know your thoughts though. Let me know your thoughts underneath the video. Of course, always do your own due diligence. Again, if you want to try out Telegram, the Telegram game Flappy Bird, I'll leave a link to it underneath the video. Again, not sponsored or anything like that. Just I want some bragging rights. Right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll see you all in the next video.